Hey, it's Colin. We just got back from Bushy Road's Spring Fest in Chicago, and my team actually made to top 8. Although we lost in the first round of top 8, we made it there, and this is my deck that I played. I sat in seat A, and I played Eradicators. I went 5-1. I'll go through the deck, and then I'll go through what I played throughout the day, and maybe some changes I'd make to the deck at the end. So let's get started. First up for grade 3s, I played 4 Vowing Sword Dragons. He's the main Vanguard you want to ride. Basically, Vowing Sword and Stunverse work hand in hand. When Stunverse destrides, Vowing Sword sees all the cards that get bound, and then his ability to give 5k or 10k if they choose not to search stacks for each card bound. His second ability is quite useful too. When ridden upon, he just comes out to rearguard, and for every 2 cards in your damage zone, you can target bind a card in your opponent's drop zone. It came into play a few times against Regalia. You just choose the Regalia cards, and they can't put them back to soul. Overall, I also played 4 over 3 or any other ones. Just I didn't want to run into any order colonies or I also chose to play 4 because I wanted the ride, not guaranteed, but the highest chance of hitting it, and also being able to re-ride in case it gets stunned due to Order Colony. Also, the extra copies allow you to Persona, which can get you the Progenitor Dragon. That allows you to punch through a lot of cards that have resist, mainly for the Regalia matchup. If they have all their equip gauges on, you can't really touch them with Stunverse, so that's why I chose to play 4. Next up, I played 3 Descendants. This card is pretty bonkers when combined with all the other Eradicator grade 3s. Well, first of all, it takes their abilities and keeps it for himself for a turn. And even after striking Stunverse and coming back down, he still keeps the abilities. So if you have Vowing Sword, if you roll over Vowing Sword, you still get all the extra binding effects. You roll over Gauntlet Buster, you still get the crits and power up. The other skill in Vanguard Rearguard is just a simple binding effect, but Stunverse usually takes care of that, so it doesn't come out too much. And of course, the Restand effect, which is pretty bonkers with Vowing Sword's power gain and also Gauntlet Buster's crit and power. Next up, we played 1 Gauntlet Buster Dragon. This guy is really good against the Excel matchups, Pale Moon. Also, when it's ridden upon by a Descendant also copies its abilities, so 3 crits minimum restand is pretty good. It's also a great finisher. Once you strip your opponent's hand cards down to low numbers, Gauntlet Buster can just kind of swing for massive damage and take the game there, hitting over heals and over triggers. Not much else to say. Now for the grade 2s, I played 4 Unruly Dragons. These were a promo from quite a while ago. They allow you to just disrupt your opponent's rearguards during battle phase, and it's pretty annoying to play around. Usually they gotta attack into it first or remove it somehow. It's simple, just intercept, Counterblast 1 Eradicator, and then choose a non-boosting or attacking rearguard and retire it. Next up we have Cohen Shock. He allows you to also retire during basically any phase, as long as you have retired another rearguard, your opponent's rearguard. So when Unruly goes off, he'll go off too, and both players will choose a rearguard and retire it. So it's good to get rid of your opponent's board during their battle phase. This also works with the Narukami G guards, because those cards actually say retire then bind or just retire. So just battle phase shenanigans that are really good. We have 2 Chos. They've got Chos have a really good early game bind effect, maybe stop rushes and whatnot, but usually you want the second effect, which is at the end of battle your Vanguard attacks, you can pay 1 counterblast, and if the front row is empty, he'll restand. So this card is really good when you have power gain through perhaps Voltage or the GB8 or even Conquest Dragon, or just Vowing Swords effect. Then we played 2 Spark Ring Dragons. This guy gains 1000 per card in Bind Zone, so he gets pretty beefy during the late game. His second ability allows you to do some multi-attacks, Narukami style. He blows himself up and the opponent's front row, and then your back row and their back row move up to fight. So it didn't come up during the tournament, but the power gain and just the generic beat stick was really good. On to the grade 1s. We have Nusku. Lets you search top 5 cards for an Eradicator, add it to hand, and then if you did, discard a card. This card will fetch your basically anything. Your perfect guards, your grade 3s, rear guards. Not much else to say. If you're playing Eradicators, play 4 of it. Demolition Dragon, another MVP of the deck. It's basically on hit, when attacking or boosting, you draw 1. Then, on top of that, if you can choose a card in their opponent's bind zone or drop zone and bind it, but he moves the soul. Usually I just let him sit on the rearguard circle and generate card advantage. Lets you play the grade 2 game, lets you target specific graveyard cards, against Granblue or even Order Colony. It's an insane card. Next up we have 3 Caster. It's a stride fodder from the G format for Eradicators. When it's discarded, you can counterblast 1, search top 7 for a grade 3 Eradicator, and add it to hand for free. And of course, being a stride fodder, it's +2 grade when discarding for stride. This card, I played 3 of it instead of the grade 3 searcher. It was either that or this. I kept it for the name because Unruly Dragon requires Eradicators, and second of all, it's free if you get there. Against the Order Colony matchup, I think you want to see as many grade 3s as you can, so that's why I chose 3 of this one. 2 of the old school Eradicator Perfect Guards, all the way from BT10. Searchable through Nusku. It's grade 1 PG, meaning you can use it against Ichikishima, although that didn't come up, but mainly for the searchability of all the other cards. It's Eradicator, so you can use it to counterblast for Unruly. 1 Bikun. Bikun stops basically any attack once your opponent has declared a second Vanguard attack, and it works on that attack too. Going into the tournament, I was expecting a lot of Regalias, Pale Moons, Nightmare Dolls specifically, maybe some crosses here and there, and we did run into all those matchups, and this guy is MVP. Anything after or during the second Vanguard attack or after, it can be PG'd with this guy. And I feel like Eradicators do take a while to snowball with Stunverse, so this guy will let you survive. 1V starter, standard starter. Nothing else to say. I chose the Eradicator one. You can choose whatever you like. Maybe in certain situations you might get bounced back in the deck and he gets damaged or something, but otherwise I think you can use whatever starter you want. Heal guards. I chose heal guards over the Eradicator heals just because the defensive abilities in the early game are just too essential, too crucial for survival, because the early game is really important in Vanguard. Against certain matches like the Cross, Regalia, anything that gains massive crits or even power, this guy will save you. 4 stride crits. Stride crits are good. Next up I played 4 of the Soul End crits from Premium Collection. They give a little bit of boost and also a little power boost to your Vanguard, and also they let you dig a little bit deeper. Maybe you need like a heal to use your G-Guardians, or maybe you just need that Unruly Dragon for next turn. Things like that. 2 draw PGs. Draws are, they get you there. It also helps you in maybe certain guard restrictions as, the Gurgrit strat, I think it's Helios, where it doesn't let you guard with grade 1s or greater. And you just pop this guy down. 1 vanilla crit. Just because. I thought about playing a draw, but I like crits. Crits win games. That's why I played crit. And of course, the over trigger. This guy, I mean, he stands your Vanguard, 100 million. What more do you want? Now for the G zone, I played 3 stun bursts. I think 3 is perfectly fine. If G flips other cards, you can flip your Vanquishers to set up your VMAX, or maybe just your Kree Elementals. But if you don't know what he does, he binds 4 cards each from your opponent's field and drop zone. And then for every 4 cards in their bind zone, you draw 1 and they bind 1 card from their hand. However, he does destride, so you lose triple drive and all that junk. But the payoff is insane. 2 V-Busters. These guys didn't really come up much. I maybe should just played 4 voltages. But his GB3 doesn't require a flip of anything. It's just Thunder Strike 7. Everything gets 5k, but at that point, I think voltage is just better. Just because of the massive power boost. The crit's nice, the drive's nice, but yeah, that'd be one thing I'd change with this deck if I were to go back in. Next up, we have Voltage. He's an old card from GBT05. It's a G flip ability too, which is a Persona flip, or a Persona flip specifically. And he's on hit. Opponent chooses a rear guard, retires it, and then they choose 2 cards in their drop zone and binds it. But mainly we want to play it for the GB3 effect, which is your front row gains 3k for each card in your opponent's bind zone. So after a couple of stun verses, you plop this guy down, your front row is hitting for a boatload. We have VMAX. If you know what this card does, he swings at your opponent's Vanguard and rear guards. And if they have an empty field afterwards, you pay 2 and you deal them 1 damage. And it can be a lethal one. I didn't live the dream this weekend, but he's always there to scare people. We got Mr. GB8, Closer Dragon. If you know what this card does, he just binds everything, every rear guard on the board, including your own. And then all your units get 2k per card in both players' bind zone. So when you get to this card, your field's going to be hitting for a lot. Like, a lot. And then you combine it with Cho-Os and your Spark Rains to your multi-attacks as well. You make use of his power gain. 1 Progenitor Dragon. This guy is really good against matchups where you can't really stun verse. Either maybe they don't have any cards to bind, or they have resist units on the board. You can just attack them straight up. That's why we play 4 Vowing Swords. Mainly for the Regalia matchups, once they equip all their divine gauges, stun verse can't really do anything about it. So this guy can just attack all of them. 1 Xerath Dragon. Drachma didn't come into play as much, or at all. I think if it's a card that I'd drop, it'd be this guy. But who knows. G Guardians. Impede Dragon. Impede Dragon's probably one of the MVPs of the deck. You can just retire bind a card, and then if they have more rear guards than you, or the difference between your opponent's rear guards and yours is 2 or greater, you get to retire another rear guard. And this is during battle phase too, so this messes up things like Luard or Aquaforce, or even Mega Colony, just because they need their rear guards on board to do their multi-attacks. This also sets off Coin Shock, just because it's a retire versus a straight up bind. It retires then binds, so that's how that works. 2 Bulwarks. It's a 10k plus 10k shield G-Guard, usually right after your first stun burst. This is active, and the little bonus effect is that when it retires from Guardian Circle, if you have, for every 4 cards in your opponent's bind zone, you can retire X front row rear guards. It happens after the battle, so it's not like a Denial Griffin, but it's still good. It sets off Koin Shaku as well. And 1 Brahma. I chose this over Dismal. I think I should have stuck with Dismal to protect my Unrulies. this guy gives you 10k shield just for binding 2 cards of different grades in your drop zone. It's an easy 10k shield. Not much else to say about it. But I think the Dismal would have been more impactful. So for matchups, round 1 I went up against Great Nature. It was the big bellied build. It was a pretty butt clenching match. I used a lot of G guards just to clear their board off, stop their restand effects from like Crayon Tiger, and but it did come down to a no guard from me to their Vanguard swing with triple drive, and they did hit the crit, but I was a little sack of potatoes and hit my overtrigger on 6, and then next turn was just stun versus Combat Buster, and it was game. So kudos to that player. I think his team got 4th, which is really cool. Round 2 went up against Regalia. I think it was Kevin Cho's team. He got combo off and went into Marduk since he went first. And I gave him damage, but I was pretty confident that I could survive it because I had Bikun and a PG in hand. The game went on a little bit longer than I expected, and I had to take a no guard from a quad drive Minerva. However, he failed to get to 9 Regalias in Soul, so he didn't get the triple attack off, which was good. I would have definitely not survived that. It came down to last quad drive, I think, and he hit his last draw turn and decked out. So yeah. For round 3, played against Jewel Knights with Crystal Luster Dragon, and I kind of knew what I was doing. I've never played against it, but I just stayed low, used my G-Guards and Unruly Dragons to destroy their rear guards in battle phase, and it wasn't too bad. 4th round, I went up against the Cross. I really enjoyed his build. He played the old-fashioned Strikin', so when he rode his Cross over it, he was at 3 critical, and if I ate any of those, I would I would have been kind of dead. But luckily he healed. He healed, so he only did 2 attacks, and I just Bikun the second one, and that was it. Going into dungeon next turn, I wasn't too scared. I just used, I actually just ate it. And then I did hit my overtrigger, sack of potatoes again, on the offense, and sent him to 4, and then it just went downhill from there because too many cards were used to block from his side. He didn't get to his Legion, just unfortunate. And then round 5, I went against Granblue. I knew this one was a little bit tougher if they had the grade 1 that expels all the cards from the bind zone because it slows down the stun versus snowball effect. He did get it off. However, he left his grade 1 on the board. And I did some, battle phase shenanigans and was able to use Impede to bind the grade 1. So I was like, alright, I got this. Next turn, he healed back down to I think 1, so he had one face down counter blast. I was at 3 or something. So I did my stun burst stuff, whatever, swung in, dealt 1. I thought to myself, I'll just give him 3. I give him 3. Next turn he went bad bounty into Night Rose, and I just folded over. Thinking back, probably should have just left him at 2 or 1 open. Although I think he had a Jesse, so if he was able to get Jesse, then I would have still died. But that was the end of Swiss. That was 4-1. We were 3-2 as a team. We thought it was going to be top 4 only, but it was top 8. So we got 6th overall, and that allowed us to go into top 8. Top 8, we met up with the Kevin Cho's team again. I played against the Regalia player once more. This time, he didn't get combo. He was stuck on CEO Regalia. or yeah, CEO Yggdrasil, I mean. And I was actually stuck to, I didn't have a grade 3 to ride besides my Heal Guardians, so I played the grade 2 game a little bit with him until he rode up to Yggdrasil, but then at that time my Demolition Dragon had already accumulated so much card advantage that I had all the parts needed to survive. I had my Bikuns, I had my Eradicator PGs from the searches with Nusku, and the game went on a little too long. He ran out of resources, his deck was running out too, and eventually it came down to deck out game again. Anyways, definitely my hardest matchups were against Granblue and Regalia. Granblue, just because of the grade 1 that can, undo your binds. But I think it's still an even match. Against Regalia, you just clench your butt and hope they don't get combo. I guess you could play it slow too, damage deny. But with Heal Guardians, that's a little bit harder. All the other matchups against rearguard centered decks, I think I was gonna do okay. I did get lucky. I didn't play against Order Colony or Nightmare Dolls. I think those have been rough matchups for me too. Maybe okay with Mega Colony, but I haven't even tested that, so because no one in my locals has it. Looking at you, Dylan. Well, anyways, that's a wrap. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck. Had a lot of fun. I saw a lot of familiar faces. Most of my locals went to, as you guys can see from the previous videos. If you ever get a chance to go out there and just play. See you guys later.